Welcome to Beeventa Audio. This channel is a home for audiobooks and spoken books across ideas, life, work, and reflection, shared calmly and without rush. In this recording, you are invited to listen slowly, without pressure to remember or perform. Simply allow the words to move at their own pace and take what stays with you. Let's begin.
Chapter 1. The only 3 numbers you actually need. Let's dive into this important topic. Budgeting doesn't have to be a spreadsheet obsession. For most beginners, the bright blinking problem with money is that it feels like too much detail. Too many categories, too many rules, too many ways to feel guilty. This chapter strips all that away and gives you a tiny set of facts that change everything. If you can find 3 numbers and be honest about them, you already have more control than most people. Those 3 numbers are simple. How much money comes in, how much goes out, and what's left over. In the sections that follow, you'll learn how to find each number quickly and accurately, the common mistakes people make when estimating income and spending, and why accuracy matters more than perfection. You'll see why many budgeting failures start with guesses instead of facts. If you want clarity fast, you'll learn where to look and how to record these values in a way that's low effort but reliable. What you'll get from this chapter: a clear process to calculate your money in, money out, and money left, practical tips for dealing with inconsistent paychecks and one-off expenses, and a short checklist you can use right now to get those 3 numbers and stop guessing. The emphasis is on building a habit that takes minutes, not hours, so you can move from stress to simple action. This chapter sets the foundation. Once you can state those 3 numbers without hesitating, every budgeting choice afterward becomes easier. The rest of the book depends on that honest snapshot. You won't be judged for what the numbers say. You'll be equipped to make better choices with them. 1 point money in your first number is how much money actually arrives in your hands each pay period. This sounds obvious, but people trip over gross versus net, side gigs, and irregular deposits. Spend a few minutes and get honest. Look at real statements. List every income source and pick the time frame you'll use for your budget. Monthly is easiest. No net, not gross. When you start a budget, use the money that actually lands in your account, not the impressive-sounding gross pay. Net income is what you can spend after taxes, benefits, and other withholdings. If you plan using gross pay, you'll trip over shortfalls the moment bills are due. To find net pay, pull a recent pay stub or check your bank deposit for the final amount. Salaried workers can take annual net pay and divide by 12. Hourly workers should use a typical month's hours and add overtime only when it reliably occurs. Being precise here doesn't require perfection. If your net varies slightly from month to month, choose a conservative number you can count on. That small discipline keeps your budget realistic and prevents the stress of expecting money that won't arrive. Include every income stream. Don't limit income to your main job. Write down every predictable source: a part-time job, gig work, tips, regular reimbursements, rental income, or side hustle earnings. Even small, steady amounts matter because they change what you can afford. For inconsistent sources, note how often they pay and use an average or conservative estimate for the budget period. If you expect a bonus but don't know the size or timing, don't count it as reliable income until it's confirmed. Being thorough doesn't mean including every possibility. It means being realistic. Only count money you can reasonably expect this month. That way your spending choices are based on facts, not hopeful thinking. Handle irregular pay with a simple average. If your pay fluctuates, averaging recent months gives a practical baseline. Add up your net deposits from the last 3 months and divide by 3 to smooth out spikes and dips. This simple approach turns unpredictability into a usable number. Freelancers and gig workers should plan from the lowest reliable month instead of the average if income swings wildly. Use strong months to build a buffer so you can cover leaner periods without panic. The goal is predictability, not perfection. Averaging makes everyday decisions manageable. Building a modest cushion turns unpredictability into something you can weather without changing how you live every month. Record it in one place. Keep your income number where you'll actually look for it. A single note, a 1-column spreadsheet, or a simple app. One trusted source prevents accidental double counting or guessing when bills come due. Update this record every time pay arrives and label each income line clearly: main job, side gig, tips. If you average irregular income, note the period used for that average so you remember the method later. Accuracy beats perfection. Aim to get the number close and consistent rather than chasing minute changes. A single, reliable record reduces mental overhead and makes calculating your money out and money left straightforward and quick. 1.2 Money out. The second number is everything you spend. Don't try to track every penny at first. Aim to capture the big stuff and repeat expenses. Grouping spending makes this manageable. Fixed bills, essentials, variable spending, and occasional costs. Use a real snapshot so your budget reflects life, not wishful thinking. Start with fixed, unavoidable costs. Begin by listing every bill that rarely changes from month to month: rent or mortgage, insurance, utilities, loan payments, and subscriptions. These are the backbone of your spending because they're predictable and usually non-negotiable. Pull 2 or 3 recent statements or your last few bank transfers to confirm amounts instead of guessing. If a payment does vary, like a utility bill, average the last 3 months to get a realistic monthly number. For subscriptions, check annual charges too, and divide by 12 so nothing hides off your radar. Write each item and its confirmed monthly amount in your single budget document. Quick tip: sort items by due date to see cash flow pressure during the month. When income fluctuates, use these fixed totals as the baseline you must cover first. Knowing this number makes every other budgeting decision clearer and less stressful. Track essentials and variable spending. Essentials are the things you need: groceries, transportation, basic personal care. Variable spending includes dining out, entertainment, and small impulse purchases. Treat these groups differently. Essentials should have tighter estimates, while variable items get a realistic buffer. Review 30 to 90 days of transactions from cards and cash to total each category. Don't rely on memory. Actual records prevent underestimating. If you see big swings, use the median month or an average to smooth anomalies. For groceries, start with your last 3 shopping trips and project a monthly total. For transport, include fuel, transit passes, and parking. Round up slightly when transferring numbers into your budget. An extra 5% cushion reduces surprises and helps you stick to the plan without constant recalculation. Account for one-off and annual expenses, big irregular costs, car maintenance, medical bills, gifts, holidays are where many budgets break down. They feel occasional until they hit. The simple fix is to convert them into a monthly amount and build them into the budget so they don't become emergencies. List predictable annual costs. Total them, then divide by 12. Example: $600 in holiday spending becomes $50 per month. For truly unpredictable items, estimate conservatively and create a small sinking fund you add to each month. Put these monthly equivalents into the same budget document so you can see the full picture. Treat the sinking fund like a regular bill. When the expense occurs, pay it from that buffer. This practice keeps surprises from derailing your basic spending plan. Use a quick audit method. If you want a fast, accurate snapshot without obsession, try this audit. Pick one recent bank or credit card statement and scan for recurring charges. Note subscriptions, bills, and any automatic payments. Then add one recent week of all variable spending, card purchases plus cash withdrawals, to capture everyday habits. Multiply that weekly variable total by 4, or use a 30-day window to estimate the monthly variable spend. Combine this with the fixed costs and the monthly equivalents for one-off expenses to get your full money out number. Record these totals in a single simple document and update them monthly. This low-effort routine gives clarity fast and is far more effective than complex systems you won't maintain. Small, regular audits beat occasional deep dives every time. 1.3 Money left. Money left is the simple result: income minus spending. This third number shows whether you're ahead break. It's the most useful number because it tells you what you can actually do next: save, pay down debt, or cut back. Focus on clarity, not judgment. Do the basic subtraction. Start with a single simple formula. Monthly net income minus monthly spending equals your money left. Use net income, the amount that actually lands in your account after taxes and deductions, so you're working with real cash, not gross numbers. Gather two quick totals: what comes in this month and what went out. For spending, include fixed bills, variable spending, and any one-off costs you expect. Then subtract spending from income. If the result is positive, that's your monthly surplus. If it's zero, you're balanced. If it's negative, you found a gap to close. Keep the math straightforward and repeat it when things change. If a paycheck, rent, or subscription shifts, update the totals immediately. This small habit prevents big surprises and gives you a reliable snapshot each month. Remember, this isn't about perfect forecasting. It's about clarity. The subtraction gives you a fact to act on, not a reason to feel judged. Interpret what the number means. Once you have your money left, pause and interpret it. A small surplus, enough to cover a few $100s, means you have room to build a safety buffer or fund short-term goals. It's progress, not perfection. A larger surplus opens more options. Accelerate debt payoff, invest, or add to an emergency fund. That extra space lets you plan strategically rather than react to monthly stress. If the number is negative, treat it as information, not failure. A deficit signals where to prioritize fixes: immediate cuts to variable spending, temporary income boosts, or negotiating bills. It points to action, not shame. Use the result to set realistic next steps. The meaning of the number is practical. What can I do this month? So focus on choices that move you forward, even with small wins. Create rule-based choices for the surplus. Decide ahead of time how you'll use any surplus so emotion doesn't drive your decisions. Simple rules remove guesswork and keep momentum steady. For example, you might allocate 50% to building a one-month buffer, 30% to paying down debt, and 20% to a short-term goal. Customize those percentages to match your priorities. If debt is urgent, shift more toward payoff. If you lack savings, favor the buffer until you reach a comfortable cushion. The key is consistency. Automate where possible. Set up transfers the day after payday so the allocations happen without debate. For irregular income, apply the same rules to surplus months and scale back conservatively when income dips. Rule-based choices keep you steady. They turn leftover money into progress instead of impulse, and they make it easy to celebrate small wins as your plan unfolds. Take immediate steps for a shortfall. If your math shows a shortfall, act quickly with simple, high-impact moves. Start by pausing non-essential subscriptions and trimming discretionary spending like dining out or entertainment. These are the easiest places to free up cash fast. Next, negotiate or shop around for recurring bills. Insurance, utilities, and phone plans often have room for savings. If possible, pick up short-term income boosts, a side gig shift, selling unused items, or freelancing tasks that pay quickly. Prioritize essentials first: housing, utilities, food, and minimum debt payments. Communicate with creditors if a payment will be late. Many will offer temporary relief if you ask. Use your weekly money reset to monitor progress so the deficit doesn't return. Small, immediate steps plus consistent checking make shortfalls manageable rather than overwhelming. Chapter 2. Build a budget that fits your life. Let's dive into this important topic. Forget lists of 50 categories that you'll never keep updated. The 4-category budget is the alternative most beginners need. It reduces choices so decisions get easier. Instead of breaking every purchase into a narrow slot, the 4-category method groups spending into broad, sensible buckets you can actually use. That simplicity is what makes a budget stick. In this chapter, you'll meet the 4 categories, see examples of what belongs in each, and learn how to personalize them so they match your priorities and routines. We'll talk about how to map recurring costs like rent and utilities, irregular bills like car repairs, and flexible spending like dining out or hobbies. You'll also learn a straightforward way to handle sinking funds, those small savings accounts for future expenses, without creating an avalanche of separate line items. Personalization matters. A budget that works for a single person on a tight income looks different from one for a household with kids or a couple sharing finances. I'll show you how to tailor the 4-category model to your situation, including how to combine or split categories if it helps your life. The goal is a simple structure you'll actually check, not a financial performance you can't maintain. Finally, you'll get practical steps for setting realistic spending caps. These are not arbitrary rules. They're based on your 3 key numbers and your real priorities. You'll walk away with a basic budget you can try for a month and a checklist for small tweaks that keep things realistic and stress-free. 2.1. The 4-category budget. The 4-category budget reduces choices so you can actually use a plan. Instead of dozens of line items, you group everything into broad buckets that match how you live. This intro shows the basic purpose: simplify tracking, speed decisions, and make money choices obvious without constant spreadsheet work. Essentials. What must get paid? Essentials are the bills you can't skip without immediate consequences: rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, reliable transportation, and minimum debt payments. Treat this bucket like a foundation. Know the total each month so you immediately see how much remains for other priorities. That clarity reduces panic and prevents decisions based on guesswork. Track these items monthly and be conservative when you estimate variable costs like groceries or utilities. Round recurring numbers up or use one extra month's average as a buffer. Automate payments where possible to avoid late fees and to make this bucket truly set it and forget it. If your essentials exceed what you earn, this is the place to make adjustments first. Shop for cheaper insurance, renegotiate plans, or prioritize debts. Stability here makes the rest of your budget realistic and much easier to manage. Savings and debt. Future you priorities. Combine emergency savings, targeted sinking funds, and extra debt payments in one clear bucket. The trick is to treat these goals like mandatory expenses. Pay yourself and your debts first, just as you would a bill. That keeps momentum without micromanaging every tiny savings line. Use simple labels for larger goals: emergency fund, car replacement, credit card payoff, and roll smaller goals into a general savings line until they grow big enough to separate. Automating transfers also keeps progress steady and removes decision fatigue. Prioritize based on impact. Build a small emergency buffer quickly, then balance extra debt payments with continued saving. Over time, this combined bucket reduces stress and creates real choices for future you without cluttering your monthly plan. Lifestyle. Choices that make life enjoyable. This bucket covers variable spending that adds enjoyment: dining out, entertainment, subscriptions, hobbies, and small daily comforts. Grouping these frees you from logging every single purchase and keeps budgeting practical. Decide a monthly cap that feels fair and stick to it. If you want more clarity, split into 2 simple sub-buckets: daily comforts, frequent lower-cost items, and occasional treats, bigger nights out or gear. That helps you protect small pleasures while still controlling the big spends that blow a month. Use the lifestyle cap as the place to practice judgment, not punishment. If you overspend one month, make a tiny adjustment the next. Tracking trends for 2 or 3 months will help you pick a realistic number that fits your life without making you miserable. Buffer and irregulars, the safety valve. Every budget needs a single place for unpredictable costs: car repairs, medical copays, gifts, taxes, or an unexpectedly high bill. This buffer prevents you from raiding essentials or lifestyle money when life throws curveballs. Think of it as your short-term shock absorber. Replenish the buffer as soon as you use it, so it's ready for the next surprise. Start small and build it gradually. Even a modest cushion reduces stress and keeps other categories intact. Over time, a reliable buffer shrinks how often you need to adjust everything else. As your financial picture stabilizes, the required buffer size may shrink. That's a good sign. Use freed up space to boost savings or pay down debt. The goal is flexibility, one bucket that keeps your budget resilient without adding complexity. 2.2. Personalizing your categories. One size doesn't fit everyone. Personalization makes the 4-category method practical. This short intro explains how to adapt buckets so they reflect your household, income, and goals without adding complexity. Combine when it reduces friction. If you're single with simple finances, combine savings and buffer into one line until your goals require separation. Fewer lines mean fewer decisions. The aim is to lower the friction of checking your budget, not to create a complex taxonomy. Start simple and split only when it helps clarity. Think of this like decluttering. One tidy folder beats 10 half-used notebooks. A combined savings and buffer bucket can hold emergency money, short-term goals, and occasional windfalls. Use tags or simple notes to remind yourself what portions are for, but resist separate columns or accounts unless you actually use them. Check this combined bucket in your weekly reset. If you find recurring questions, is that for car repairs or groceries? Then consider creating a new line. Until then, keeping it unified reduces cognitive load and makes maintaining the budget far more likely. Give it a month before changing. Split when clarity matters. When your life includes dependents, shared bills, or complex goals, splitting categories can answer real questions. Don't split for neatness. Split when it gives you information you'll use. For example, separating childcare from general lifestyle spending helps you see how much parenting costs each month and makes trade-offs clearer. Another common split is separating subscriptions or transportation if they form a sizable chunk of your expenses. If you keep asking, "Did my transportation budget blow this month?" then that split is warranted. The extra line is justified if it stops repeated guessing or saves you from overspending in other buckets. Make splits surgical and reversible. Start with the smallest number of new lines that solve your question and test them for a month. If they don't provide clarity, merge them back. Small experiments beat theoretical perfection. Shared finances. Agreed roles, clear labels. Money arguments often come from vague expectations. For couples, the fix is simple. Agree roles and label buckets clearly. Create a shared essentials bucket for rent, utilities, groceries, and childcare. Then give each person a personal lifestyle bucket for hobbies, clothing, or discretionary spending. Decide who pays what based on income, fairness, or convenience. There's no single right answer. Some couples split proportionally to income, others split evenly. Whatever method you choose, write it down in plain terms so both partners know the commitments and there's no room for assumptions. Use labels everyone understands and include contribution rules in your weekly reset checklist. If one partner covers a bill this month, note it once so it's clear where adjustments happened. Also, schedule a monthly money chat to revisit roles and address surprises. Small, regular check-ins keep things fair. Syncing funds without chaos. Syncing funds are powerful, but can create category fatigue when you list every future expense. Instead of a separate line for each small item, roll most into your combined savings and debt bucket. Track the 2 or 3 largest future costs, like a dedicated car fund and a home maintenance fund, so big items remain visible. Within your combined bucket, use simple labels or notes to mark intended uses. During your weekly reset, glance at the totals for each labeled purpose and adjust contributions as needed. This gives you the benefits of syncing funds, planned saving, and less panic without dozens of tiny categories you'll ignore. When a labeled fund grows enough to deserve its own account, separate it then. Until that point, aggregation reduces complexity and keeps your budget readable. Remember, the point of syncing funds is to make spending predictable, not to turn your budget into a filing system. 2.3 Setting realistic spending caps. Caps are not punishment. They're limits based on your real inflow and priorities. This intro explains how to set caps that follow your 3 numbers and feel doable long-term. Start from your 3 numbers. Begin with the 3 numbers you already know. Money in, money out, and money left. Calculate your monthly take-home pay holistically, including steady deposits and a conservative average of any irregular income. Then list fixed essentials, rent or mortgage, utilities, minimum debt payments, groceries, so you can see what is non-negotiable each month. Once essentials are tallied, look at what remains. Use that remainder to set caps for savings, lifestyle, and your cash buffer. Base these caps on actual leftovers, not on idealized percentages that feel impossible to maintain. For example, if your take-home is $3,000 and essentials are $2,100, you have $900 to split. Treat the first set of caps as starting points, not final judgments. This approach reduces shame and makes budgeting sustainable. You work from facts, adjust gradually, and build confidence rather than chasing perfection. Use simple percentages as guides. Simple percentage splits give you a fast, repeatable starting point when you don't want to micromanage numbers. A common baseline many beginners find useful is 50% essentials, 20% savings and debt, 20% lifestyle, and 10% buffer. Think of these percentages as guides, not strict laws. Apply them to your take-home pay to get ballpark caps. If 50% of your income isn't enough to cover actual essentials, raise that category and lower lifestyle instead. The point is to create a plan that reflects reality while keeping choices manageable. Percentages also make day-to-day decisions simpler. When tempted by a purchase, check if it fits the lifestyle bucket. For irregular earners, use averages or base your plan on your lowest typical month. Over time, customize the split to match your life and priorities. Apply the 90% rule to your caps. The 90% rule gives your caps breathing room. Set a lifestyle cap, but aim to spend only 90% of it. That small cushion helps protect your buffer and prevents guilt when small unexpected costs arise. It's a practical way to avoid the tightrope feeling of living right at the limit. For example, if the lifestyle cap is $500, plan to spend $450. The remaining $50 can roll into your buffer, boost savings, or fund an occasional treat. This habit reduces the all-or-nothing mindset, where a single slip feels like failure. Use the rule as a behavioral nudge. Check progress during your weekly reset so you don't wait until month-end to see a shortfall. If you consistently underspend, reallocate the difference. If you consistently overspend, slightly lower the cap or find small, lifestyle adjustments. Plan for review and small adjustments. Think of caps as experiments you'll refine. After 1 month, compare actual spending to your caps and note surprises. Did essentials run higher, or did lifestyle expenses balloon? That feedback is how you tune the plan to match your life. When adjustments are needed, make small, deliberate changes. Raise an underestimated essential and shave a bit off the lifestyle cap, or move a one-off expense to a sinking fund. Tiny shifts are easier to maintain than sweeping cuts that feel punitive. Avoid overreacting to a single bad month. Look for patterns over 2 or 3 cycles before making major changes. Document why you adjusted each cap so future reviews are clearer. Regular, modest tweaks keep your budget useful and aligned with real life instead of forcing life to fit rigid rules.
Before we continue, if you find this reading helpful, you're welcome to subscribe to Beeventa Audio for more audiobooks and spoken books across ideas, life, work, and reflection. Now let's continue.
Chapter 3: How to Stick to Your Budget Without Feeling Miserable. Let's dive into this important topic. Most people equate budgeting with deprivation. That only makes them rebel against the plan. This chapter focuses on what actually helps you keep a budget without feeling miserable. Flexible rules that protect your goals and let you enjoy life. The 90% rule is the centerpiece here. A beginner-friendly idea that gives you margin for mistakes while keeping progress steady. You'll learn how the 90% rule works in practice, including simple math to apply it and examples of how it keeps small slip-ups from turning into budget failure. We'll pair that with a mindset shift. Instead of strict limits that feel like punishment, you'll use boundaries. Clear, kind guidelines that make decisions easier. Boundaries are about protecting your priorities, not policing every purchase. The chapter also covers realistic strategies for dealing with temptation and social pressure. What to do when your friends suggest an expensive night out. How to plan treats so they don't derail your month. Those are practical conversations you'll have here, with scripts and rules you can use right away. Lastly, we'll cover recovery. How to respond without shame when you break your own rules. You'll get a short process to assess the damage, make a quick correction, and reframe the experience so it becomes useful instead of discouraging. Budgeting should be a practice you learn from, not a test you fail. This chapter gives you the tools to keep going with confidence. 3.1 The 90% Rule. The 90% rule is a simple safety net. Plan to use about 90% of your available money for spending and regular bills, and leave roughly 10% alone as a buffer or short-term savings. This small margin stops minor slip-ups from turning into a crisis and makes the whole budget feel less strict. Below are clear ways to use the rule and an easy math example so you can apply it today. What the rule actually means. The 90% rule isn't about hiding money or being stingy. It's a practical habit that creates predictable breathing room in your month. When you plan to spend about 90% of your take-home pay, you build a small, automatic cushion that soaks up minor surprises, an unexpected bill, a pricier grocery trip, or a payment that comes due earlier than expected. This 10% functions as a short-term shock absorber, not a replacement for an emergency fund. It reduces pressure on decisions and makes the rest of your budget less fragile. Because the buffer exists up front, You won't need a new rule every time something small goes wrong. Over time, the cushion can grow. If you consistently don't use the full 10% some months, you can redirect that money into longer-term savings. The immediate benefit is both psychological and practical. Less stress, fewer late fees, and a realistic margin that makes budgeting feel manageable instead of punitive. Simple math you can use right now. Applying the 90% rule is quick math you can do anytime. Start with your average take-home pay for a typical month. Multiply that number by 0.9 to find the amount you'll plan for regular spending and bills. For example, $3,000 0.9 is $2,700. The remaining $300 becomes your buffer. If your income swings, use a conservative baseline. Pick the lowest reasonable month or average several months, and recalculate when income changes so your 90% target stays relevant. That prevents basing decisions on an inflated expectation of cash flow. Use the 90% figure as the combined cap across all 4 categories. Track actual spending against it during your weekly reset. If you consistently exceed the cap, make quick adjustments. Shift discretionary dollars, negotiate bills, or temporarily reduce non-essentials. How it fits the 4-category budget: think of the 90% target as the total pie you'll divide among essentials, financial goals, lifestyle, and fun. Cover essentials first: housing, utilities, food, and transportation, because those are non-negotiable. Aim to keep essentials comfortably within the 90%, so other priorities still get funded. Next, allocate to financial goals: debt payments, retirement, and short-term savings. Even small, consistent contributions matter. The 90% rule protects these by limiting total spending so goals aren't crowded out. Then assign money to lifestyle, subscriptions, dining out, personal care, and reserve a slice for fun. Small pleasures that keep your budget livable. If essentials threaten to consume more than 90%, the math gives you a clear signal. Reduce costs, negotiate bills, or make temporary lifestyle cuts. Use the weekly reset to track balances and shift between lifestyle and fun as needed. The cap makes prioritization simple and visible. Where the 10% goes. Deciding in advance what the 10% will do removes guesswork when life throws something at you. One straightforward option is to keep the 10% as a true buffer in your checking account, untouched unless a real surprise appears. That minimizes overdrafts and stress without extra accounts. Another approach is to use the 10% to fund short-term sinking funds, quarterly insurance, vehicle maintenance, or holiday spending. Label small buckets so the money feels purposeful rather than free cash. You can also designate part of the 10% for planned treats, an inexpensive night out, or a hobby purchase, so enjoyment doesn't sabotage your month. Rotate the 10% purpose based on priorities. If a big irregular expense is coming, funnel the buffer into that sinking fund. In stronger months, move unused 10% into a longer-term emergency fund. Set a simple rule for tapping the 10%. For example, only for expenses over $50 or true emergencies, and commit to replenishing it by the next month. 3.2. Using boundaries instead of restrictions. Boundaries make decisions easy without feeling like punishment. Instead of forbidding things, set clear limits that protect what's important. Boundaries are kind and practical rules you follow to protect your goals while still living a life you enjoy. Here are ways to create useful boundaries and handle situations where your plans meet real life. Boundaries versus restrictions. Restrictions say never. Boundaries say this much and this often. For example, instead of banning dining out, set a boundary: 2 restaurant meals per week or $60 per month. That keeps you connected to social life while preventing small choices from snowballing. Boundaries are easier to keep because they feel fair and predictable. They turn abstract rules into measurable limits you can plan around. When you know the rules ahead of time, you make calmer decisions and use less willpower. Think of boundaries as guidelines that protect priorities rather than punish impulses. They still require discipline, but the focus shifts to consistency and kindness toward yourself. That reduces shame and makes it more likely you'll stick with your budget for the long term. If your income fluctuates, set percentage-based boundaries instead of fixed dollar amounts so they flex with your pay and stay realistic. Practical boundary examples: simple, specific rules make decisions painless. A weekly entertainment cap, say $25 per week, stops small outings from adding up and lets you plan ahead. A personal spending allowance gives guilt-free money for hobbies, coffee, or treats without touching other categories. Make rules measurable and time-bound. I'll spend no more than $40 on clothes this month beats don't buy clothes. Use calendar triggers. Review big purchases 48 hours before you commit, or check the budget when something exceeds your personal allowance. Combine boundaries with small tech tools. Track a single envelope on your phone or set a dedicated debit card for personal spending. The point isn't micromanagement, it's removing guesswork so willpower isn't needed for every choice. Revisit these boundaries monthly and tweak amounts to match life changes. Start conservative, then loosen a rule if it consistently goes unused. Boundaries should adapt, not punish. Scripting. Social pressure. Having a short, friendly response removes awkwardness and keeps your boundary intact. Use phrases that offer an alternative. I'd love that, but I'm keeping my month under my budget. Shall we do X instead? Or, I can't do that this week, but I'm free for a cheaper option. These lines are quick, honest, and steer plans to something affordable. Keep scripts ready for different situations. For spontaneous nights out, suggest a home gathering. For weekend trips, propose postponing or choosing a less expensive activity. Practice tone. Keep it upbeat and matter of fact so it doesn't sound defensive. You don't owe long explanations. A brief statement about sticking to a plan is enough. If friends push, repeat your boundary calmly or offer a lower-cost compromise. Most people respect clear limits when delivered kindly. Over time, these scripts make social budgeting feel normal and reduce guilt. Rituals that support boundaries. Rituals turn boundaries from rules into routines. Schedule a monthly fun top-up so you always have money earmarked for treats. An automatic transfer to a buffer or personal spending account removes the temptation to spend from your main balance. Decide on shopping-free days or weekends to break automatic browsing habits. When you pair a ritual with a trigger, like payday or the first of the month, the action becomes automatic and requires no daily willpower. Use small, repeatable steps before risky moments. Check your weekly budget before going out, set a spending limit on your phone, or pre-plan the night with a low-cost option. Share rituals with a friend or partner for accountability and make them enjoyable instead of punitive. Over time, these tiny habits reduce decision fatigue and keep boundaries sustainable. The goal is a system that supports your choices, not a set of demands you resent. 3. What to do when you break your own rules. Everyone slips up. The real skill is what you do afterward. A quick, shame-free recovery process keeps one mistake from becoming a pattern. This section gives a short, practical sequence. Assess what happened, make a small correction, and use the moment to improve your plan. No guilt, just useful steps. Immediate triage. Assess the damage, start with a short, calm check. When you overspend, get clear details. The exact amount, the category it affected, and whether it was a one-time treat, an impulse buy, or something that might recur. Write those facts down. Don't rely on memory. Note the date, the vendor, and what led to the purchase. For example, late-night scrolling, peer pressure, or a planned celebration. That level of detail prevents fuzzy thinking and stops panic from driving decisions. Next, classify the overspend as either recoverable within the month, a small amount you can shift, or structural, a recurring issue that needs a rule change. This distinction determines whether you need a quick fix or a longer-term adjustment. Finish by setting one simple next step, a minor correction to cover the gap, or a rule to avoid the trigger. Keeping this triage short and factual makes recovery possible without emotional overwhelm. Quick corrective actions. Choose one small, practical correction. Don't try to rewrite the whole month. Pick a single action you can actually follow for the next week or two. Trim discretionary meals, pause a subscription, or use your buffer if you have one. If you have a 10% buffer, moving money from that pot is often cleaner than cutting essentials. If not, reduce non-essential spending for 7 days. Make coffee at home, skip takeout, or temporarily postpone a non-urgent purchase. Avoid dramatic, punitive moves like canceling all if those backfire. Instead, aim for a short, measurable step that closes the gap and protects your momentum. Track the result and note whether the correction was enough. Small corrections are easier to keep and less likely to trigger resentment or abandonment. Use the change as a temporary bridge, not a new rule. They restore balance while keeping the budget realistic and sustainable. Reframe the slip-up as data. When a slip-up happens, drop the self-criticism and treat the event as information. Ask 3 quick questions. What was the trigger? How much did it cost? And did it fit in my priorities? Record the answers. Maybe the trigger was stress, a convenience moment, or social pressure. Knowing the cause turns a vague regret into a specific pattern you can fix. Then pick one clear rule to prevent the same mistake, like no spending after 9 p.m., limit nights out to 2 per month, or pre-authorize purchases over $50. Keep rules short and test them for a month. Finally, reframe the outcome. A single overspend is a learning opportunity that improves your budget's design. That mindset keeps motivation high and makes small adjustments feel intentional instead of punitive. Log these episodes and review after 30 days. Patterns become obvious fast. Each piece of data helps you adjust caps, move money between categories, or set a small buffer so future slips don't matter as much. Recovery habits to prevent repeat slips. Pick one recovery habit to focus on. Less is more. Good options include a weekly check-in, keeping a small emergency buffer, or creating a pre-approved treat plan so indulgences are scheduled rather than spontaneous. Set a specific trigger for the habit. After any overspend, delay the next non-essential purchase for 72 hours or transfer a fixed amount to savings as a corrective step. The consequence should teach without shaming. Automate wherever possible. A small automatic transfer into your buffer each paycheck reduces the mental load and prevents future slip stress. If you prefer social support, tell a friend the rule so it becomes easier to stick to. Finally, return to your plan quickly. Make the correction, note what you learned, and resume the routine. Consistency, steady returns to the budget, is far more powerful than chasing perfection. After 30 days, review whether the habit reduced slips, and either keep it, tweak it, or try a new one. Chapter 4, the Weekly Money Reset. Let's dive into this important topic. Consistency beats perfection. The Weekly Money Reset is a tiny routine that prevents small problems from becoming big ones. It takes no more than 10 to 15 minutes each week and pays off by keeping your plan accurate, reducing surprises, and making your finances feel manageable. This chapter shows you exactly what to check every Friday, how to correct overspending midweek, and the single habit that makes any budget last. Start with a quick list. Review your bank balance, tally what you've already spent in each of the 4 categories, check for upcoming bills, and move money into any sinking funds you planned. The chapter gives a short checklist you can use on your phone or a Post-it. You'll see examples of typical Friday findings, a subscription you forgot, an unexpected dinner, and the exact next step actions that prevent those issues from growing. Correcting overspending doesn't have to be dramatic. The book teaches gentle course corrections that keep your month intact. Adjust this week's flexible spending, move a small amount between buckets, or delay a non-essential purchase. You'll learn how to decide quickly so you don't waste time deciding again later. The last part of the chapter explains how to turn the reset into a habit. You'll get a short setup plan for the first 4 weeks and suggestions for reminders. The goal is to make the reset automatic so you can focus on living your life, not micromanaging your money every day. 4.1. What to check every Friday. Spend 10 to 15 minutes on a simple checklist every Friday. This quick review keeps small surprises from snowballing and gives you a clear picture of the week before weekend plans change. Think of it as a short reset, not a full audit. Bank balance snapshot every Friday. Open your checking and savings accounts and note the current balances. Look for pending transactions and recent deposits so you understand what money is truly available. This quick snapshot prevents surprises like overdrafts or missed payments. If a large payment is pending, you'll know to hold off on non-essential purchases or move funds between accounts. Don't get hung up on exact cents. Round numbers are fine. The point is clarity. If the balance looks lower than expected, use the rest of your Friday reset to find the cause. Recent subscriptions, a forgotten charge, or a delayed paycheck. If you spot an issue, act immediately. Move money from savings if planned, pause discretionary spending, or set a reminder to follow up. 10 minutes of attention now saves stress later. Make this snapshot part of your routine so you never start the weekend guessing. Over time, you'll learn patterns and need to check less often. Tally your 4-category spending. Add up what you've spent this week in the 4 categories: essentials, savings and debt, life and fun. You don't need exact cents. Rounded numbers give a clear picture fast. Start with essentials: rent, groceries, utilities, and transport. Then note money directed towards savings or debt payments. Life covers things like household items and medical costs, while fun is dining out, subscriptions, and entertainment. Keep it fast. Use your bank app's search or a simple list on your phone. The goal is to see which bucket is moving fastest so you can decide small course corrections before the month ends. If life or fun is unusually high, ask why. Was it a one-time expense or a repeat habit? Use that insight to adjust this week's spending, trim a restaurant visit, or postpone a non-essential purchase. Your tally doesn't judge you, it informs you. Small, regular adjustments are more powerful than rare, strict overhauls. Treat the tally as data to help you stay consistent. Check upcoming bills and calendar events. Scan your calendar for scheduled payments and social plans that might cost money. Put known due dates, credit cards, utilities, subscriptions on your Friday checklist so nothing sneaks up on you. Remember that not all costs are automatic bills. A weekend, trip, a birthday dinner, or a work event can change your week's spending quickly. Spotting those early gives you time to shift flexible spending or move money between buckets. If a larger payment hits next week, decide during your reset how to cover it. Postpone a planned purchase, reduce dining out, or pull a small amount from a sinking fund. Choosing now prevents panic later. Use calendar reminders for unusual bills like annual insurance or subscriptions that auto-renew. A single quick note on your phone can save you from missing a renewal or being surprised by a charge. Making this scan habitual keeps your month predictable. You'll stop reacting and start planning, which lowers stress and keeps your budget on track. Move money and review subscriptions. Each Friday, transfer planned amounts into sinking funds or automatic savings that support upcoming costs: car maintenance, holiday gifts, or irregular bills. Automating these moves when possible removes decision fatigue. Also use this time to audit subscriptions. Scan recent transactions for recurring charges you forgot about. If you rarely use a service, cancel or pause it. Downgrading one plan can free up money for higher priorities. Small subscription tweaks add up over months. During your reset, decide if a subscription is still worth the value it provides. If it's a maybe rather than yes, try a pause or set a calendar reminder to revisit it. If you need to move money between buckets, do it deliberately. Shift from life to essentials or from fun to savings as needed, but keep the changes small and intentional so you don't erode your budget's flexibility. Over time, these small moves build a reliable buffer. 4.2 How to correct overspending midweek. Overspending happens. The key is a quick, low-stress correction rather than harsh punishment. Use a few practical moves to keep the month on track without ruining your week. Identify where the overrun happened. Start by looking at the week's spending, not the whole month. Open your bank app or budget tracker and scan transactions to spot the outlier. Was the extra cash spent on dining out, a shopping trip, transport, or an unexpected bill like a medical copay? Pinpointing the category narrows your options for fixing it. Keep the focus factual. Avoid language that sounds like self-judgment. This is data, not a moral failing. Note the date, amount, and merchant so you can see whether it was a one-off or part of a pattern. If your buckets are simple, check which one's balance dipped below plan. That tells you whether the issue is flexible spending or a core expense. Identifying the exact source lets you choose targeted corrections instead of guessing, and it turns a vague worry into a clear problem you can solve. Make a gentle course correction. When you've identified the overrun, pick one small, practical fix. The goal is to reduce the impact without making your week miserable. Options include trimming flexible spending for the remainder of the week, skipping an unimportant purchase, or postponing a non-essential item until your next pay period. Be realistic about what you'll tolerate. If cutting out all dining would make you feel deprived, choose a smaller sacrifice. Eat in one extra night or order a cheaper meal. The idea is to keep momentum, not punish yourself. Communicate the change if it affects others. Tell a partner you'll delay a buy or suggest a lower-cost plan for a social outing. Then set a clear, simple rule for the rest of the week so you don't have to decide repeatedly. Write the action in your notes or budget app so you remember why you made the choice. Shift money between buckets. When your budget uses simple buckets, shifting a small amount between them can be the fastest fix. Move just enough to cover the overrun and keep the transfer intentional. Don't sweep large sums without thinking about the consequences. Start by choosing a donor bucket that won't be harmed by a temporary reduction. Fun, dining, or miscellaneous often absorb small cuts without breaking plans. Avoid raiding emergency or essential buckets unless it's truly necessary. Note the amount and the reason so you don't lose track later. Keep transfers modest. The aim is to steady the week, not rewrite your month. After the transfer, update your balances and check that other planned spending still fits. If you find yourself moving money between the same buckets frequently, schedule a tweak at your monthly review instead of relying on midweek fixes. Log the action and adjust next week. When you've made a midweek fix, write it down. Record what you changed, why you moved money, and how much. A brief note in your budget app, a dedicated column in a notebook, or a single line on your weekly checklist will do. Recording creates useful data without adding work. Review these notes during your weekly money reset, so the correction informs decisions instead of being forgotten. Over time, patterns become visible. Repeated overspending in one category signals a need to adjust your cap, while rare one-offs suggest a temporary buffer might be enough. Use the information to plan a calm change at your monthly review rather than overreacting in the moment. If the midweek fix worked, keep that tactic. If it didn't, try a different small adjustment next time. Treat the log as neutral feedback. Its purpose is to improve your system, not to induce guilt. 4.3. The habit that makes your budget last. The reset only works when it becomes a habit. Build a simple routine, use a reminder, and follow a 4-week setup to make the Friday check feel automatic instead of optional. Create a predictable ritual. Pick a consistent time and place for your weekly reset. Friday after lunch, while your coffee is cooling, or right before you close your laptop. Consistency matters. When the reset is tied to a familiar cue, it requires less willpower and becomes almost automatic. Set a phone reminder or calendar event so you don't rely on memory. If possible, tie the reset to an existing habit. Post-lunch walk, your Friday meeting wrap-up. Anchoring the check to something you already do increases the chances you'll follow through. Keep the session short and pleasant. Use a warm drink, play a favorite song, or sit in a comfortable spot. When the ritual feels small and kind, you're less likely to skip it and more likely to stick with it over months. Review the ritual after a few weeks and tweak the timing or cue if it's not sticking. Small adjustments keep the habit aligned with your life instead of forcing a schedule that fails. Follow a 4-week starter plan. The 4-week starter plan turns a new habit into a routine by building small steps. Week 1 is practice. Use the checklist. Keep the reset under 10 minutes and focus on noticing rather than fixing. Week 2 adds one small action. Set a single transfer to a sinking fund or savings bucket. Making an auto transfer removes decision fatigue and teaches you that a tiny move can protect you from surprises. Week 3 tries one course correction. If you're overspending in a flexible category, move a modest amount, delay a non-essential purchase, or reallocate this week's fun money. Note the result so you learn what works. Week 4 pulls everything together. Review what stuck, discard steps you didn't use, and simplify the checklist. Keep a short note of improvements and a small celebration for consistency. Habits grow when you acknowledge progress. If a week feels rushed, repeat it rather than racing forward. Repetition beats speed when forming habits. Handle resistance with kindness. When resistance shows up, respond with curiosity instead of shame. Skipping a reset or feeling annoyed is normal. Treat these moments as data. Ask what got in the way. Time, energy, unclear steps, or a bad cue. Remind yourself of the 90% rule. Consistency counts more than perfection. If you do the reset most weeks, you're winning. One missed Friday is not a derailment. It's information about how to adjust your routine so it fits your real life. Use gentle experiments. Try an earlier time, a different cue, or a 1-minute micro reset. Note how changes affect follow-through. If guilt appears, write a short, compassionate note to yourself and then plan one tiny corrective step. Track patterns for 2 months. Recurring obstacles are solvable. When you treat resistance as feedback and reduce friction, the habit becomes easier, and your budget benefits without punishing you. Use simple tools and triggers. Simple tools remove barriers. Keep a short, reusable checklist on your phone's Notes app or a sticky note on your desk so you never have to recreate the steps. The checklist should be 3 to 5 items: balance, category totals, upcoming bills, and transfers. Use auto transfers for savings and sinking funds. Automating the small moves makes them invisible and reliable. Pair transfers with a calendar event for bills so payments don't surprise you. Choose low-friction tech: a basic spreadsheet, a minimalist budgeting app, or a single bank rule. Avoid complex tools that require time to maintain. The simpler the system, the higher the chance you'll use it weekly. Add triggers that fit your life: an email reminder on Thursday evening, a Friday calendar alert, or a physical cue like your lunch mug. Combine one tool and one trigger and keep them consistent. Small scaffolds sustain big habits. Chapter 5: Budgeting for Irregular Income. Let's dive into this important topic. When your income changes every month, traditional budgets feel impossible. If you work freelance, do gig work, or have seasonal pay, this chapter gives practical rules that create stability from unpredictability. The core idea is simple: plan from your lowest expected month and build buffers during the months you earn more. You'll start by creating a baseline budget based on a conservative estimate, your lowest realistic month. That gives you a plan you can meet even if work slows. Next, we'll cover methods to capture extra income, how to split surge pay between paying down debt, boosting your buffer, and enjoying life. You'll also learn how to convert irregular payments into reliable money sources by creating a personal paycheck system. This lets you plan the month like someone with a steady salary, even when the cash flow isn't steady. Handling unpredictable cash is part math and part psychology. You'll learn how to build a buffer, small automatic deposits that grow over time, and how to use it without guilt. The chapter includes a prioritization framework for tough months: which bills to cover first, where to cut temporarily, and how to avoid costly short-term fixes like high-interest loans. Finally, there are practical templates and examples for different income patterns: someone paid per project, someone with seasonal spikes, and someone with both regular and irregular streams. You'll walk away with a plan that keeps essentials covered and gives you a path to grow your stability over time. 5.1 Freelancers and Gig Workers. If you don't get a regular paycheck, start by creating a budget that you can meet on your worst month. Use a conservative baseline and build simple systems that turn sporadic payments into steady money you can plan around. This section gives practical steps you can use right away to stop reacting to each invoice and start managing cash with confidence. Find your lowest realistic month. Start by looking back 6 to 12 months of income. Pull bank statements, invoices, and payment records, then list each month's total. Skip obvious one-offs like a big one-time project or an expense reimbursement. Instead, identify the smallest month that represents an actual slow stretch, not an anomaly. Use that low number as your baseline when building your monthly plan. Budgeting to your lowest realistic month gives you a plan you can meet even if work slows. It removes the constant scramble to cover essentials and prevents optimistic overspending when income fluctuates. When you earn more than the baseline, direct the extra cash toward a buffer, taxes, or goal funds so it doesn't become lifestyle creep. Recheck your baseline every 3 to 6 months. As your revenue stabilizes, you can safely raise it. This simple habit turns unpredictability into a manageable foundation, smooth income into a monthly target. If your paychecks bounce around, convert them into a predictable monthly target. Choose a reasonable monthly amount based on a rolling average of the last 3 to 6 months, or by totaling recent income and dividing by the number of months. That target becomes the amount you plan to cover essentials and regular spending. Each time you get paid, immediately move the portion needed to meet that monthly target into a checking account labeled monthly pay. Treat that account as your operational income. Only spend from it for bills, groceries, and the 4 category budget items. This mental separation reduces temptation and makes each month's spending feel steady. Put any extra money into a buffer, debt repayment, or savings goals, rather than letting it inflate your lifestyle. If months are consistently higher or lower, adjust your target every few months. Small, consistent transfers and a clear label are enough to turn jagged earnings into a steady paycheck you can plan around. Create a personal paycheck system. Pick a fixed paycheck amount you'll transfer to your spending account each month. Treat that transfer like a real salary. Move it on a reliable schedule, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, so your day-to-day cash feels normal. Whenever money comes in, split it into buckets: essentials, buffer, taxes, retirement, and fun. Doing this consistently prevents one big payment from blowing your budget. You don't need exact percentages, but try a split that matches your priorities. For example, cover essentials first, then fund a tax reserve and a growing buffer, and finally allow a reasonable fun portion. Use separate accounts or labeled sub-accounts so you see how each bucket grows. This personal paycheck system reduces chaos. It forces discipline without strict bans, makes bills predictable, and lowers anxiety because you always know what portion of income is for regular spending. Adjust the paycheck amount and buckets as your income stabilizes, but keep the same rhythm. Plan for taxes and benefits up front. Freelancers often treat taxes as an afterthought and then face a shock at filing time. Avoid that by setting aside a consistent percentage of every payment into a separate tax account. A common starting point is 20 to 30% depending on your self-employment tax, federal and state liabilities. Consult a pro for precision. Make this transfer automatic so taxes grow without thinking about them. Do the same for other irregular obligations like health insurance premiums, retirement contributions, or professional fees. Decide fixed amounts or percentages and route them into labeled accounts the moment you get paid. That way those bills don't pull from your monthly baseline and you can pay them on time. Planning for taxes and benefits up front prevents your buffer from being eaten by predictable costs. It also helps you price work accurately. If taxes are accounted for, your project rates won't leave you short. Reassess the percentages annually or when your income meaningfully changes. Keep a simple cash flow calendar. Create one simple cash flow calendar that lists expected invoices, client payment terms, subscription renewals, and bill due dates. Keep it minimal: date, amount, and expected deposit day. The point is clarity, not perfection, so you can see when money is likely to arrive or when an outflow is coming. Check and update this calendar during your weekly money reset. Note clients who habitually pay late and add reminders to follow up a few days after the invoice due date. Include irregular items like quarterly taxes or annual insurance so they don't surprise you. A tidy, current calendar makes planning choices easier. Whether to spend extra income, top up your buffer, or postpone discretionary purchases. It also reduces panic because you'll know when to expect cash and when to chase it. Spend 5 minutes a week keeping it current, and you'll avoid many last-minute scrambles. 5.2. Handling unpredictable cash. When income jumps up and down, your main job is to capture the upside and protect against the downside. Building a buffer and creating rules for extra money will stop good months from disappearing. This section offers simple rules and habits to turn unpredictable cash into reliable support for your budget. Build a buffer with small, automatic deposits. Start with a realistic initial target. Think 1 month of essentials, and treat the buffer as non-negotiable. Instead of waiting for a big lump sum, set up automatic transfers that occur whenever money arrives, even if it's just $10 or $25. Small, consistent deposits add up and reduce the temptation to spend windfalls. Gradually grow the goal from 1 month to 2, then 3 months of essentials so you have breathing room when income dips. Keep the buffer in a separate account labeled for lean months so it's visible but not mixed with daily spending. When you receive larger payments, split a portion automatically into this account to accelerate growth. Treat the buffer like insurance. It prevents panic decisions and expensive short-term borrowing. Review the balance quarterly and adjust transfer amounts as your baseline expenses change, celebrating quiet milestones as you move toward a stronger safety net. Use a clear split for surplus income. Decide a simple allocation rule for any surplus, so choices become automatic in busy months. For example, One practical split is 40% to your buffer, 30% to debt or long-term goals, 20% to taxes or reinvestment, and 10% for enjoyment. Choose percentages that reflect your priorities and the realities of your work, and avoid creating too many buckets. Automate transfers for the buffer and debt portions so the money works for you before you decide how to spend the rest. If your work is tax-heavy, increase the tax reinvestment slice so you're never surprised at filing time. Keep the fun portion. It's a psychological tool that reduces the urge to raid priority funds. Review the split every few months and apply it consistently to windfalls so surplus income fuels progress, not impulse. Track allocations briefly to celebrate steady wins and refine the rule as needed. Turn irregular payments into a steady paycheck. Create a monthly pay account that you use like a regular paycheck deposit. Fund it either by reserving a fixed portion from each payment or by transferring a rolling average of recent months' income. For example, calculate a 3-month average and deposit that amount into the account each month. Use this account to pay rent, utilities, and fixed bills, so your month feels predictable despite uneven receipts. This smoothing method removes the mental math of whether this month will cover essentials. If receipts are low, reduce transfers, but avoid touching the account's balance set aside for bills. When income spikes, direct extras to your buffer, taxes, or goals rather than spending immediately. Name the account Paycheck to reinforce the habit and test the system for a few months, tweaking the average as needed. Label your buffer and don't treat it like a spending fund. Give your buffer a specific name, Lean Months Fund or Operational Buffer, and state its purpose clearly. A label creates a psychological barrier to casual spending and clarifies when those funds are legitimate to use. Put a short note in the account or a phone reminder describing its rules. For example, use only if monthly income can't cover essentials after temporary cuts. Treat the buffer like insurance, not spare cash. If you must draw from it, document the reason and set a plan to rebuild with future surplus income. Avoid generic labels like savings that blur purpose and invite mixing with discretionary goals. Monthly balance checks or calendar reminders help maintain discipline without guilt. Over time, a clearly named buffer reduces panic decisions and makes irregular income feel manageable. Use cash flow tactics before borrowing. Before turning to loans or credit, use practical cash flow moves that cost nothing and keep control with you. Invoice promptly and follow up on late payments. Faster billing turns expected work into usable cash. For large jobs, request deposits up front so you aren't waiting until completion to get paid. Negotiate payment schedules with clients and vendors. Shifting due dates slightly can prevent crunches without new costs. If borrowing becomes necessary, choose the lowest cost option and have a clear repayment plan. Avoid payday-style fixes that carry high fees and interest. Build simple routines, monthly invoicing, a deposit policy, and a vendor calendar to reduce reliance on credit. These tactics protect your budget, preserve credit, and prevent emergency interest charges from eroding your progress. 5.3. Prioritizing expenses when income shifts. Some months will be tight. When that happens, knowing what to cover first and where to trim saves stress and prevents long-term damage. This section gives a simple triage order and practical steps you can take to protect essentials and your ability to earn money in the near future. Cover essentials first. When money is tight, make essentials non-negotiable. Housing, utilities, groceries, and insurance are the foundation. Miss them, consequences pile up quickly. Start by listing due dates and minimum amounts for each essential bill, so you know exactly how much cash you need to keep the lights on and a roof over your head. If you get paid irregularly, prioritize these items the moment income arrives. If funds aren't enough to cover everything, focus on preventing long-term harm. Partial rent payments paired with communication to your landlord, keeping utility accounts current to avoid shutoffs, and buying groceries that stretch basic staples over convenience items. Insurance and medicine should stay funded when possible because skipping them can create large costs later. Treat essentials as your safety net, not as something you negotiate away. Once they're covered, you can make thoughtful choices about lower priority spending without risking stability. Protect income-generating expenses. Your ability to earn is an expense worth protecting. Transportation, a reliable phone, key software, and supplies are investments. Cutting them impulsively can reduce your capacity to bring in money. Start by identifying which costs are directly tied to work and rank them by impact. If you face a short month, look for temporary savings that don't remove your ability to earn. Swap to cheaper transit options only if they won't make you late for gigs. Pause non-essential subscriptions, but keep professional tools active. Consider negotiating lower rates for recurring services or switching to pay-as-you-go plans during lean periods. If a true choice must be made, choose the option that preserves future income. For example, if you must skip a training class or replace a broken tool, weigh short-term savings against potential lost earnings. Protecting these expenses shortens the time until your next good month. Choose temporary reversible cuts when you need to shrink spending quickly. Pick changes that are easy to reverse. Pause streaming services, downgrade premium plans, delay non-essential shopping, and reduce dining out before touching anything that will cost more to restart. These short-term trims keep your quality of life intact while you work through the tight patch. Create a simple list of reversible actions and set a calendar reminder to review them when income improves. That prevents these pauses from becoming permanent by accident. For subscriptions, check cancellation policies. Some services allow temporary holds or lower-cost tiers that preserve access without full cost. Use small behavior shifts too. Cook more meals at home, buy generic brands for a month, and bundle errands to save on gas. These steps add up fast and don't require major lifestyle sacrifices. When your cash flow steadies, reverse the cuts intentionally so you don't lose what you enjoy. Communicate with creditors and vendors. Don't wait until a missed payment to reach out. Call or email early. Most lenders, landlords, and service providers prefer working with customers who communicate, and many offer hardship programs, deferred payments, or adjusted due dates. Explain your situation briefly, propose a realistic plan, and ask about temporary accommodations. Bring documentation if needed, proof of income variability, expected payment dates, or a note about upcoming gigs. This builds credibility and increases the chances of a friendly arrangement. If possible, request written confirmation of any agreement so you have a record to refer back to. For recurring bills, ask about switching to a different billing cycle that matches your cash flow. For rent, consider negotiating a small short-term reduction or a payment plan tied to your next strong month. Being proactive often reduces fees, prevents collections, and preserves valuable relationships. If you borrow, pick the least damaging option. If borrowing becomes necessary, make the cost and timeline your top decision factors. Prefer options with the lowest interest and shortest payoff period. Tap savings or ask friends and family for a small, clearly documented loan before resorting to high-cost alternatives. Personal lines of credit, low-interest credit cards paid quickly, or community loans are usually less damaging than payday loans or cash advances. Before you borrow, calculate exactly how much you need and create a repayment plan tied to expected future income. Treat the loan like a short-term goal. Set automatic payments when possible and mark the date you expect to be debt-free. Avoid adding new recurring expenses during this period. After the lean month, rebuild your buffer immediately. Even small automatic transfers back into savings reduce the chance that the next shortfall forces another loan. Track what led to borrowing, adjust your budget, and make the buffer a non-negotiable part of your irregular income strategy.
A brief pause. If this audiobook has been meaningful so far, you may consider subscribing to Beeventa Audio, where new spoken books and thoughtful readings are shared regularly. Now, we return to the text.
Chapter 6, Smart Adjustments After 30 Days. Let's dive into this important topic. The first month of any new budget is a test. After 30 days, you'll have data, what worked, what didn't, and where the stress points are. This chapter guides you through a focused review so you can keep what's working, fix what's broken, and avoid the burnout that makes people abandon budgeting entirely. We'll walk step by step through the 30-day review, how to collect the right information, which numbers matter most, and how to spot patterns instead of reacting to single events. You'll get a short list of low-effort improvements that make the biggest difference. Simple shifts in categories, small changes to spending caps, and tweaks to your weekly reset that reduce friction. The chapter also covers what to change and what to leave alone. Some struggles are temporary and will resolve with habit. Others point to structural issues: too low income, unrealistic caps, or missing buffers. You'll learn how to tell the difference and make sustainable choices instead of quick fixes that don't last. Finally, we'll tackle budget burnout. You'll get practical advice for keeping the system pleasant, how to schedule rewards, when to simplify further, and how to set a rhythm that feels natural. The goal is a budget you can live with for the long haul, not a short-lived sprint. After 30 days, you'll be ready to refine the plan and move from surviving the month to shaping your financial future. 6.1 What to keep. After 30 days, the goal is to salvage what already works. This short check focuses on habits, categories, and routines that felt natural and required little willpower. Keep the parts of your budget that reduced stress, matched your lifestyle, or produced consistent results. Those wins are the foundation you'll build on. Small habits that stuck. Start by listing the tiny routines you found effortless after the initial push. The weekly money reset, an automatic bill payment, or the habit of glancing at your balance before spending. These small, repeatable actions create momentum because they require little willpower once they become automatic. Keep these habits because they form your budget's backbone. Rather than chasing dramatic changes, lean on what already fits into your life. Strengthen them with simple cues. Link the weekly reset to a Friday ritual, or pair balance checking with your morning coffee. Avoid overcomplicating things in pursuit of better. If a habit took effort at first but now feels natural, it's more valuable than a strict rule you can't maintain. Preserve and slightly expand these wins. Small, consistent actions save more stress and time than occasional heroic sacrifices. Categories that reflected real life. Examine which categories matched how you actually spend. If grouping dining out and social costs together made tracking easier, keep that grouping. The 4-category system is meant to simplify, not force artificial precision. Consistency is the priority here. A category that gives you clear insight into patterns, where money tends to leak or where you can trim, matters more than a perfectly detailed spreadsheet. If a grouping helped you make better decisions, it's working. If a category feels off, tweak it minimally rather than overhaul everything. Test changes for another month before judging. Remember, categories should reduce friction, not add decision fatigue, so preserve the groupings that felt natural and useful. Spending caps you met comfortably. Identify caps you hit without stress. Those numbers are realistic anchors for your budget. They show what's sustainable for your lifestyle and give you confidence that budgeting doesn't mean constant deprivation. Keep these caps intact and use them as reference points when adjusting other areas. Rather than cutting everything to chase faster savings, reallocate from categories you consistently underspend or build a small buffer from caps you comfortably meet. If a cap left you satisfied and didn't trigger guilt, it's doing its job. Only consider tightening a comfortably met cap if you have a clear, higher priority goal. Otherwise, preserve a few of these wins to maintain momentum and avoid burnout. Tools and methods that reduced friction. Hold on to tools that made budgeting less annoying. A simple app that auto-categorized transactions, a cash envelope for discretionary spending, or a 2-minute Friday checklist. The best tools reduce mental load and save time. Automation, like scheduled transfers to savings or automated bill pay, often converts effort into effortless maintenance. If a tool prevented mistakes or cut down on tedious tracking, it's part of a sustainable system and worth keeping. Be cautious about adding new gadgets or complex spreadsheets. If something made budgeting harder, drop it. Your goal is low-friction consistency, not feature-heavy perfection. Keep the methods that encourage you to follow your plan without dread. 6.2 What to change. Not everything will fit right away. This section helps you find changes that matter, real, practical fixes that stop recurring problems without overhauling your whole plan. Focus on a few targeted adjustments, not a long to-do list. Adjust unrealistic spending caps. If you regularly exceed a cap, don't blame yourself, adjust the number. A cap that's too low creates friction and failure. Raise it to a realistic level and find a different place to trim or reassign funds. Start by reviewing a month of actual spending. Look for patterns, specific days, stores, or habits that push you over. Use that data to set a new cap that covers typical behavior, plus a small margin for variation. When you increase a cap, pair it with a plan. Reduce less important categories, shift money from a buffer when it's available, or temporarily lower savings to avoid stress. Small increases now prevent bigger meltdowns later. Remember the goal, a budget you can follow consistently. Tiny, realistic wins build confidence. Over time, you can tighten limits as habits change, but start from a place that keeps you on track instead of constantly failing. Reclassify confusing categories. When a category consistently causes guessing or mislabeling, simplify it. Merge similar buckets or rename them so they match how you think about spending. Clear labels reduce hesitation during your weekly reset. Start by listing categories that you struggle to label during your weekly reset. If you spend time deciding whether a purchase belongs in subscriptions or streaming, that's friction. Combine them into a single intuitive label like recurring services or entertainment, and watch how categorizing speeds up. Merging reduces decision fatigue and makes your weekly checks faster. It also improves accuracy in tracking so your budget reflects real habits instead of noisy labels. Better data means better choices. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try a new category structure for 1 month and see if your reset feels smoother. If confusion persists, simplify further. The aim is clarity. Fewer choices mean fewer mistakes and better momentum. Add missing buffers. If unexpected expenses eroded your plan, create a tiny buffer. Even a small emergency buffer reduces panic and prevents derailment. Start with a modest goal, enough to cover 1 or 2 small surprises, like a car repair or medical copay. Aim for a named amount you can build in small steps, an amount that fits your income rhythm and feels achievable. Treat this buffer as a separate line in your 4-category system, or fold it into flexible spending with a clear target. Fund it regularly during stronger weeks, or set an auto transfer that nudges savings without thinking. If you use the buffer, rebuild it gradually with small top-ups next month. Replenish before touching core savings. Using short, temporary cuts in discretionary spending, swap strategies that cost more energy than benefit. If a rule requires constant decisions or emotional restraint, like cutting out all treats, replace it with a kinder approach. Set a manageable limit for treats or create a reward line. Item: identify the rules that drain energy during your weekly reset. Ask, does this rule meaningfully change outcomes, or does it just feel punitive? If it's mostly punishment, swap it for something simpler that still nudges behavior. Examples: instead of banning dining out, set 2 restaurant meals per month. Instead of 0 entertainment spend, allocate a modest fun amount. These low-friction options reduce willpower fatigue and keep you engaged. Track the swapped rule for a month. If results are similar and stress less, keep the new approach. Rules should protect your budget, not punish you. Choose strategies that produce steady progress with manageable effort. Automate where possible. Preset transfers, auto savings, or scheduled fun purchases eliminate daily choices and save energy. 6.3 How to avoid budget burnout. Burnout is why many people quit budgeting. Prevent it by designing a budget that supports life, not one that feels like a long-term sentence. These tactics help you keep the plan enjoyable and realistic over time. Schedule small, regular rewards. Include a small reward line in your budget so you get to enjoy life while saving. Rewards should be predictable and modest: a weekly treat, a monthly dinner out, or a small hobby fund that grows slowly over time. When rewards are built into the plan, they remove the all-or-nothing feeling and reduce temptation to splurge. Pick rewards that genuinely lift your mood but don't derail progress. Rotate them so they stay meaningful. 1 month a coffee shop splurge, the next month a movie night. Log rewards in your weekly reset and celebrate them as small victories. Over time, these positive reinforcements build consistency without guilt. Remember, the goal is sustainable behavior. A tiny, regular pleasure makes the budget feel humane and worth sticking to. It's not about indulgence. It's about designing a system that supports both your financial goals and your well-being. Use the 90% rule when needed. Give yourself permission to aim for 90% of your targets rather than perfection. The 90% rule removes the black and white thinking that turns small slips into full-blown failure. If you miss a spending cap or savings goal, reaching 90% keeps you on track without shame. Practically, treat 90% as the comfortable minimum. If you budget $200 for dining out, spending up to $180 still counts as success. When you fall short, use the weekly reset to absorb the miss. Note why it happened, adjust the coming week, and move on. This makes corrections simple instead of punitive. The rule also protects momentum. Small, consistent wins compound, while guilt-driven abandonments undo progress quickly. Use 90% to decide when to course correct and when to be flexible. Over time, you'll tighten targets naturally as habits strengthen, until perfection is unnecessary because consistency does the heavy lifting. Simplify when overwhelmed. If tracking your spending starts to feel like a chore, simplify the system temporarily. Reduce the number of categories or combine flexible spending into a single spending cap. That lowers friction and makes the habit easier to maintain until the stress eases. Simplifying isn't giving up. It's a deliberate choice to preserve momentum. With fewer decisions each day, you'll be less likely to skip the weekly reset or ignore your balances. Once confidence returns, reintroduce categories gradually, one or two at a time, so adjustments feel manageable. Choose a simple rule to follow while simplified. A single weekly check-in, a fixed amount for flexible money, or an automatic transfer for savings. These small constraints create stability without micromanagement. The objective is to keep you engaged with the budget, not to perfect every line item. Plan for regular check-ins and resets. Make the weekly money reset a non-negotiable, short habit, 5 to 15 minutes that anchors your budget. Use this time to review spending, note upcoming payments, and adjust any caps that are drifting. Frequent tiny corrections. Stop problems before they grow. Start each reset with a quick celebration. Pick one small win to acknowledge. Then scan transactions for surprises, move money between categories if needed, and set a single priority for the actionable like stay under dining cap or transfer $20 to emergency buffer. Keeping the reset focused prevents it from feeling like a long chore. If you miss a reset, reschedule it within 24 hours. Consistency beats perfection. A steady rhythm builds confidence and reduces anxiety. Over months, these short check-ins become automatic and keep your budget alive. The weekly reset is the simplest, highest-impact habit for avoiding burnout and staying in control. Chapter 7, Your Long-Term Financial Structure. Let's dive into this important topic. Once a simple budget is humming, the next step is structure that keeps it strong over the long run. This chapter brings together monthly reviews, quarterly planning, and small upgrades that make a big difference. The focus is on systems you can maintain without becoming obsessive. Routine steps that protect your progress and let you aim for bigger goals. Start with the monthly review, a short checklist that helps you close the month cleanly. Compare planned versus actual, move money into savings or debt payments, and set priorities for the next month. Then you'll use quarterly planning to check bigger picture goals, emergency fund targets, debt payoff timelines, and meaningful savings plans like travel or a down payment. Quarterly planning keeps your budget from being purely tactical and connects daily choices to real goals. Small upgrades add up. You'll get a menu of low-effort improvements that boost security and reduce work. Automating transfers, creating a simple emergency buffer, consolidating recurring payments, and using a small set of trusted tools. These changes aren't flashy, but they make your financial life smoother. The final section ties everything together with a gentle maintenance plan you can follow for years. The system is built to be flexible, so when life changes, your budget bends instead of breaking. The result is quiet confidence. You'll know how to handle surprises, grow toward goals, and keep money from feeling like a daily stress. This chapter shows how to stay steady without losing the simplicity that made the whole plan work. 7.1 Monthly Review. The monthly review is a short, focused ritual that closes one month and sets up the next. Spend 20 to 30 minutes doing a quick check. Compare what you planned to what actually happened, move money where it needs to go, and pick one priority for the coming month. The goal is clarity, not perfection. Check planned versus actual. Begin with your 3 numbers. Money in, money out, money left. Open your budget and compare each of the 4 category targets to what actually happened. Look for the largest gaps first. Those reveal the most useful information. Ask simple diagnostic questions. Was an overspend a one-time event, a car repair, or a repeating habit, weekly takeout? Did income change unexpectedly? Turning surprises into questions gives you clear actions instead of blame. Record variances with a short note, cause, size of the gap, and a proposed fix. These quick annotations build a pattern you can review later and make future months easier to predict. Keep the aim realistic. This review is about clarity, not perfection. A focused 20 to 30-minute comparison each month delivers more insight than endless daily tracking, and it helps you make grounded adjustments. Move money where it belongs. When the month closes, act on the results. If you have surplus funds, transfer them to their intended places: savings goals, an emergency buffer, or an extra debt payment. Putting money where it belongs reduces temptation and locks in progress. If you're short, decide which category will cover the gap and plan a modest correction for the next month. Trim flexible spending, delay a non-essential purchase, or shift a small amount from the buffer. Write down the decision so it's easy to follow. Automate the common moves. Scheduled transfers to savings or debt accounts turn good intentions into steady results without ongoing effort. Even small, regular contributions add up faster than sporadic, large efforts. Think of these transfers as practical safeguards, not punishments. Moving money early protects the gains you made and prevents leftovers from turning into impulse spending. Set one practical priority. Pick a single, practical focus for the coming month, small, specific, and measurable. Instead of a vague goal like save more, choose add $100 to the buffer or cut dining out by 2 visits. One clear target keeps the month manageable. Make the priority behavior-based and concrete. Note exactly what you'll do. Schedule the transfer, plan 2 home-cooked meals per week, or move a portion of a paycheck into savings. Treat this as your monthly intention. Track progress during your weekly resets so you can correct course early. Celebrate the win when you hit it. Small successes build momentum and sustain motivation. Over months, these tiny focused wins compound into real progress. A single priority keeps your budget actionable and prevents overwhelm from too many simultaneous goals. Update recurring items and subscriptions. Quickly review subscriptions, insurance, and any annual or seasonal bills that could affect the next month. Prices, coverage, and needs change. This short scan prevents surprise charges and keeps your plan aligned with reality. Cancel or downgrade services you no longer use and flag upcoming one-time costs like renewals or memberships. Move these items into the appropriate category so they're covered rather than forgotten. Also check payment dates and amounts. Companies sometimes change charges without clear notice. If it helps cash flow, shift billing dates or consolidate services to reduce fees and simplify tracking. Spending 10 to 15 minutes on this housekeeping saves time and stress later. Set a reminder for an annual deep check so nothing slips through the cracks and your budget stays current. 7.2 Quarterly Planning. Quarterly planning is a slightly deeper check that connects your monthly habits to bigger goals. Every 3 months, take an hour to review progress on emergency savings, debt payoff, and major goals like travel or a down payment. This keeps short-term choices tied to long-term results. Review progress toward big goals. Start by pulling a simple snapshot of your goals: emergency fund balance, remaining debt, and any long-term savings targets. Compare where you are now to where you expected to be at the start of the quarter. Use plain numbers, no fancy graphs, so you can clearly see progress or slippage. If you find progress slow, pick one practical change for the next quarter. That might be a modest extra transfer to savings, canceling one recurring subscription, or shifting a portion of a bonus toward debt. Commit to that single change rather than overhauling everything. Track the change with a clear short check every month. Celebrate small wins, adding $50 to a fund or reducing debt by one payment, because they build momentum. Quarterly reviews are about steady, achievable improvement, not perfection. Adjust targets based on life changes. When income, household size, or priorities shift, use the quarterly review as a low-stress moment to update targets. Big life events, a raise, a new child, or a move, should prompt calm adjustments, not panicked reactions. Treat targets as flexible guides, not immutable rules. Start by asking how the change affects your essential needs, buffer level, and timeline for goals. If a promotion increases income, Consider directing a portion to long-term goals before inflating lifestyle spending. If your household grows, raise essentials and emergency fund targets first. Document any adjustments and set a short trial period, 1 quarter, to see how the new targets feel. Communicate changes with partners or family so everyone understands priorities. This keeps your plan aligned with life instead of fighting it. Rebalance priorities across categories. Quarterly planning is a great time to reallocate money between your 4 core categories: essentials, savings, flexible spending, and debt. Look at recent months to see which categories consistently overrun or underspend, and adjust caps where needed. If rent rises, shift more toward essentials by trimming flexible spending or redirecting a portion of savings temporarily. Conversely, during a high-income quarter, you might boost savings or fast-track a debt payment. Small rebalances, 5 to 10% adjustments, often solve problems without disrupting routines. Decide whether changes are temporary or permanent, and note them in your plan. Rebalancing should help the budget reflect current priorities, not punish past choices. Keep changes simple so you can maintain consistency. Plan for upcoming big expenses, list known large costs for the next quarter. Insurance premiums, planned travel, car maintenance, or seasonal bills. For each item, set a clear target amount and break it into small, regular deposits so the total arrives without strain. Create simple sinking funds inside your budget and automate transfers if possible. For example, a $600 trip becomes a $200 monthly deposit over 3 months. This keeps the regular budget intact and prevents last-minute scrambling. If a big cost is unavoidable and immediate, prioritize essentials and the largest impact savings first, then reduce flexible spending temporarily. Planning ahead turns potential budget shocks into manageable steps and keeps your steady progress intact. 7.3. Small upgrades that improve everything. Small, low-effort upgrades add resilience to your budget without turning it into a full-time job. Focus on automations, a modest buffer, and clearing friction. These moves protect what you've built and make sticking to the system easier. Automate the important transfers. Automation is about removing friction. Set up automatic transfers for your priorities, your core savings, any debt payments, and essential bills. Align each transfer with your pay schedule so money moves when cash arrives, not after you've already spent it. Start by automating one thing, perhaps a small weekly transfer to savings. Then add another once that feels comfortable. Automation reduces decision fatigue and the risk of forgetting payments, which keeps late fees and stress down. Check your automated flows during the monthly review to ensure amounts still match your goals and to avoid overdrafts. If you need flexibility, use adjustable dates or buffer accounts rather than turning automation off and on. That keeps the habit intact while letting you tweak amounts as life changes. Create a simple emergency buffer. A modest, accessible buffer prevents small shocks from derailing your plan. Aim for enough to cover a week or 2 of essentials, rent, food, utilities, rather than an intimidating 6-month target right away. Keep this money separate but easy to access. A dedicated savings account or a labeled sub-account works well. Build the buffer with tiny recurring transfers that don't strain your daily life. Use the weekly money reset to top it up when you have a little extra. When you use the buffer, treat replenishing it like a high-priority line item so it doesn't stay depleted. Over time, this simple cushion gives you breathing room and makes the 90% rule less risky. Consolidate recurring payments. Recurring charges quietly erode your budget and create bookkeeping clutter. Once a quarter, list every subscription and recurring payment. Cancel duplicates, pause rarely used services, and consider switching to annual plans if the discount makes sense for what you actually use. Even small annual savings add up. Consolidation reduces the number of transactions you track during weekly and monthly reviews, making upkeep faster and less annoying. Use your bank's merchant list or a subscription tracker to spot forgotten charges. When possible, combine similar services, like streaming bundles, and set a calendar reminder to reevaluate these decisions periodically so they continue to serve you without draining attention or cash. Pick a minimal tool set and stick with it. Simplicity wins. Choose 1 or 2 tools you will actually use: a single budgeting app and a weekly checklist, or a simple spreadsheet and a small paper notebook. The goal is consistency, not perfection. Too many apps or detailed trackers increase friction and make you avoid the habit. Decide on a primary tool for tracking and a secondary one for backups or quick notes. Keep categories and labels the same across both so your monthly review is painless. Reassess every few months and only add tools if a clear, persistent need appears. A minimal, familiar toolkit keeps maintenance fast and makes it far more likely you'll stick with your budget for the long haul. Chapter 8, Conclusion. Keep it simple, keep going. Let's dive into this important topic. You've built something that actually works. A simple, flexible budget that fits your life instead of controlling it. You learned 3 numbers that give clarity, a 4-category system that reduces decisions, the 90% rule that keeps things humane, and a short weekly money reset that prevents small problems from becoming big ones. You also picked up practical ways to handle irregular income and how to tune your plan after 30 days. Those pieces add up to a system that's realistic and reliable. Budgeting here is about awareness, not punishment. When you can answer where money comes from, where it goes, and what's left, you make choices on purpose instead of reacting. The 4-category approach helps you see patterns without getting lost in tiny lines on a spreadsheet. The 90% rule and the weekly reset give you space to live your life while still making steady progress. Small buffers and regular reviews build stability without constant stress. Here are a few simple next steps to keep momentum. Write down your 3 numbers tonight so you always know the baseline. Confirm your 4 categories and set 1 realistic spending cap you can meet this week. Put a 5 to 15-minute weekly reset on your calendar and stick to it. Schedule a 30-day check-in to see what to keep and what to change. Add a small buffer if surprises pushed you off track. Keep what made life easier and change what caused friction. Swap rules that drain energy for kinder, lower-friction habits. Give yourself modest rewards so budgeting feels satisfying, not punishing. Use the 90% rule when you miss a target and adjust next week instead of quitting. Simplify when tracking gets overwhelming and reintroduce nuance when you're ready. Every small step builds confidence. This system is not about perfection. It's about routines that reduce stress and give you choices. Start with what you can do today, stay consistent, and allow the plan to grow with you. Over time, budgeting will stop feeling like a chore and become a tool that supports the life you want. You've got this. 8.1. Keep the basics visible. Remind yourself why the simple system works. 3 numbers, 4 categories, a gentle routine. Keep those basics visible and useful. Write your 3 numbers where you'll see them. Pick a single visible spot and put your 3 numbers there. Income, total spending, and money left. That could be a sticky note on your mirror, a pinned note on your phone, or the top line of a small notebook you open each morning. The goal is immediate clarity. No mental math, no guessing. Update the numbers weekly during your money reset so they stay accurate without becoming a chore. When life changes, a paycheck shift, a bill change, update them right away so the baseline reflects reality. Seeing the figures regularly reduces anxiety and turns budgeting into a simple habit instead of a project. Make the note short and readable. A single line for each number and the date. This tiny visible reminder keeps you grounded, helps you make quick decisions, and prevents the overwhelm that comes from not knowing where you stand. Confirm your 4 categories. Double-check that every expense fits into one of the 4 categories: needs, wants, savings, and irregular costs. Needs cover essentials like rent and groceries. Wants are discretionary treats. Savings include emergency and goal accounts. Irregular costs are occasional expenses like annual subscriptions or car repairs. During your weekly reset, quickly scan new transactions and assign them. If an item feels uncertain, ask whether it's essential this month or something you could skip. The fewer categories you use, the fewer daily decisions you'll have to make, which helps consistency. If something doesn't fit, refine one category slightly rather than adding a new one. Small tweaks are fine, but avoid breaking the system into dozens of lines. Simplicity keeps the budget useful and less intimidating. Set one realistic cap for this week. Choose a single spending limit that feels genuinely doable this week. Maybe groceries, dining out, or entertainment. Make it small and specific so you can win. A weekly cap creates momentum. Success breeds confidence and shows the system works in real life. Decide ahead how you'll track it: a quick note in your phone, a labeled envelope, or a tally on your weekly reset sheet. If you hit the cap early, pause discretionary spending and shift your focus to next week's goal. If you miss it, use the 90% rule. Adjust, learn, and move on. Celebrate the small win, then pick the next cap. Repeating modest, achievable targets builds a habit of control and reduces the all-or-nothing thinking that makes budgeting feel punishing. Keep tools minimal. Pick one place to track your budget: a single app, a paper page, or a simple spreadsheet, and stick with it. Complexity tempts perfectionism, which often leads to abandonment. Minimal tools reduce friction and make the weekly reset fast and reliable. Only switch tools if your current one actively gets in the way. Ask whether a new app will save time or simply add features you won't use. The right tool should make checking your 3 numbers and 4 categories effortless. Focus on consistent use, not shiny features. A reliable, simple method you actually maintain will beat a complicated system you never open. Keep backups basic: a photo of your paper sheet or a synced note, so your routine survives a lost phone or a busy week. 8.2 Turn habits into short routines. Small, consistent actions are what make a budget last. Turn the weekly reset and the 90% rule into short, repeatable habits. Schedule the 5 to 15-minute weekly reset. Pick a consistent day and treat the reset like any other appointment. Put it on your calendar and set a reminder so it becomes a small, non-negotiable habit. When you approach it as a 5 to 15-minute task, it feels manageable instead of overwhelming. Use the time to check a few focused items: recent transactions, upcoming bills, progress toward your category caps, and one small corrective action if something's off. Keep a short checklist. Review, adjust, schedule, so you leave with clear next steps. Templates speed things up. Create a one-page checklist you can run through quickly. Reconcile balances, mark any overspending, move money to a buffer if needed, and note a single tweak for the week ahead. Over time, the work shrinks. Treat the reset as a weekly tune-up that prevents small issues from growing. 5 to 15 minutes consistently will save hours of stress later and keep your budget useful and alive. Use the 90% rule as your safety valve. The 90% rule means aim to spend no more than 90% of your allocated category or overall discretionary budget. If you hit that threshold, pause and plan instead of panicking. That 10% cushion is deliberate breathing room, not failure. When you reach 90%, decide one clear action: reallocate money from a flexible category, push a non-essential purchase to next week, or trim a repeatable expense. Make the choice and record it so you have a concrete next step rather than an anxious reaction. Think of the rule as an early warning system. It's easier to adjust early than to recover after overspending. Treat the 90% mark as useful data, not moral judgment, and you'll protect momentum without guilt. Over time, you'll notice which categories hit the line regularly and can tweak caps or behaviors proactively. The rule preserves your rhythm and keeps steady progress realistic. Replace strict bans with clear boundaries. For most people, hard bans invite rebellion. Clear boundaries give permission while keeping control. Instead of saying no dining out ever, set a weekly or monthly allowance that lets you enjoy treats without derailing your goals. Boundaries can be numeric, a dollar cap, situational, no shopping when stressed, or procedural, use cash for fun spending. Pick one simple rule per tricky habit so decisions are made in advance, not in the moment when impulses win. Practical tools help. Schedule a recurring transfer to your fun bucket, use a prepaid card, or set a calendar reminder for special purchases. When the boundary is concrete, it's easier to follow and easier to forgive yourself if you cross it occasionally. Boundaries reduce friction by turning vague promises into clear choices. Start small and adjust the limit if it feels too tight. Boundaries should be sustainable and support the life you want. Reward small wins. Recognizing small wins makes budgeting feel worth the effort. When you stick to your plan for a week or make a useful adjustment, pause and acknowledge it. That moment of recognition builds positive momentum and keeps motivation alive. Choose rewards that reinforce good habits rather than undo them. A favorite coffee, an afternoon walk, or a small non-financial treat often feels better than a big impulse purchase. Low-cost rewards can still be meaningful. Record wins in a simple habit tracker or calendar. Seeing a streak encourages consistency and turns money management into an achievement loop. Progress fuels effort, which creates more progress. Be intentional. Budget for occasional rewards so they don't secretly sabotage your plan. Tie rewards to clear milestones, like a 30-day check-in or a savings target, so you celebrate real progress, not just passing time. 8.3 Adjust gently and keep going. Budgeting grows with you. Use 30-day checks and small upgrades to improve the system without burning out or chasing perfection. Do a 30-day check without judgment. A 30-day check is about learning, not judging. Set aside a calm 20 to 30 minutes to review the month and treat it like a simple experiment. What happened versus what you expected? Start with your 3 numbers: total income, total spending, and money left. Compare these to the goals you set. Then scan your 4 categories to spot patterns. Which one kept you on track and which one felt tight or surprising? Notice small wins as much as problems. Maybe you cut back on takeout 2 weeks in and saved that amount, or you realized subscriptions were a recurring leak. Jot down specific examples so your next decisions are based on facts. Choose one clear change to try for the next 30 days. A modest cap, a small buffer, or a habit like checking discretionary spending weekly. Keep it simple so you can actually follow it. Finally, be kind to yourself. Look for trends to guide adjustments rather than to punish mistakes. Schedule your next check and celebrate any progress. These small actions build confidence. Add modest buffers, not dramatic cuts. When surprises push you off course, resist the urge to make drastic cuts. Small buffers reduce stress and stop you from restarting often. Treat a buffer as insurance, not extra spending. Start with a modest amount. For many beginners, 5 to 10% of monthly essential expenses is enough. If your essentials total $2,000, $100, $200 buffer gives breathing room without derailing goals. You can increase this as confidence grows. Fund the buffer in tiny steps. An automated $5 transfer or skipping 1 coffee a week adds up. Avoid cutting items that make life livable. The goal is stability, not misery. Use the buffer as your first line of defense during a monthly reset. If it's used, note the cause, adjust if necessary, and rebuild gently. Over time, this small safety net reduces anxiety and keeps your budget realistic. Celebrate when you don't touch it. That's real progress and motivation to keep going. Scale up slowly. Scaling up means adding one small habit at a time instead of overhauling everything. Pick a single specific improvement you can actually do this month. An emergency fund micro goal, a tiny automated transfer, or a new category for irregular costs. Run the change as a short experiment. Commit for 30 days, track whether it's manageable, and note the effect on your 3 numbers. If it improves clarity or reduces stress, keep it. If it creates more friction, pause or simplify. Small wins compound. An automatic $10 transfer becomes a meaningful cushion over time. One new category helps you stop leaks you didn't notice. Treat these shifts like slow investments in calm, not tests of willpower. Avoid adding multiple changes at once. If 3 things are new, you won't know which one helped or hurt. Instead, stack successes. When the first habit is stable, add the next small change. Choose progress over perfection. Perfectionism is the enemy of lasting budgets. Choose progress instead. Aim to follow your plan most of the time. Learn when you slip, and move on. This mindset turns budgeting into a durable habit, not a punishment. Use the 90% rule as your practical tool. If you hit 90% of your targets, you're doing well. When you miss, avoid shame. Note what went wrong and shift one small thing for next week. A cap tweak, an extra tracking check, or a tiny buffer. Short corrections are more powerful than drastic resets. You don't need to overhaul your whole budget because of one weekend of overspending. Make a modest plan to recover. Reduce discretionary spend slightly next week or move a small amount from your buffer back to savings. Remember that steady progress compounds. A few consistent, imperfect weeks beat occasional perfect months. Keep adjusting in small steps. Celebrate the effort and treat slips as feedback that helps you get better.
You've reached the end of this listening. If this audiobook resonated with you, you're welcome to subscribe to Beeventa Audio for more spoken books and thoughtful readings across ideas, life, work, and reflection. You can also explore other audiobooks available on this channel, each shared calmly and without urgency, and meant to be returned to whenever you need space to think. Thank you for spending this time here. Listen slowly. Take what stays, leave what doesn't.